Mm.
And we're all set to go. Welcome back to Coaches to the Moon podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today with Tess Vergara. She's the host of the Soul Power to the People podcast. She's also a coach guiding leaders to shift from fear-powered to soul-powered. And we're very interested to hear what that means. But basically, we're here to help people achieve what they're put on this planet to do, all the way from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Tess, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Alex. Thanks so much.
It's very exciting. We were just talking about how you're in Minneapolis now. You left the Philippines. You went to university in the Philippines. What's the best thing and the worst thing about living, living in Minneapolis versus where you grew up?
Oh my God, I'm a girl from the tropics. That should say it all right there. Well, good thing is this is a really good place back when I was raising my own children, it was really a good place to raise family. I don't think, or at least when I left the Philippines, I don't feel that I had the confidence to know that I could have even left my parents' home and created my own life, because I was not even allowed to get my own job. When I was in college, no, just study. That's all you need to do is just study. So that's the kind of parents I had. Both of them are gone now. And but here in Minneapolis, I found myself so from the Philippines, just to give you a background story. You can cut me off if you
No, go
from
ahead.
the Philippines, I was 19, moved to Canada.
Yeah.
And then from Canada, I met my first husband, the man of my dreams.
Yeah.
And after a while, we moved to the States. And a few months moving into the States, my marriage fell apart. There was some domestic violence towards my children. And I said, you're not going to hit those children. And they were 2 and newborn. So, but the thing was, I was deportable. So that situation, I don't know what I could have done in the Philippines or in Canada. I just don't know the kind of support. Although my parents, my mom was there, my whole family was in Canada. I'm sure, they would, and they wanted me to come back, but the police said, then you'll be charged with parental kidnapping if you cross the border. So, yeah.
Goodness me. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, no, you obviously had a great big adventure to get to where you are today, some adversity to overcome. And I think a lot of coaches, who endeavor to help other people have a bit of adversity in their past, and that often brings us to it. So let's talk about these big shifts you've made, because you spent a long time in your life working in finance, like a financial director. Now you've got a whole new business. Why did you make the shift from working in finance across to such a unique style of coaching?
Burnt out. I got burnt out. So the whole time I was raising my kids single-handedly, even though it was my whole purpose in life back then, it sustained me, and they were the center of my universe. But up until a certain point, they grew up, they started talking back, and they started not spending a whole lot of time with me. So I lost my sense of purpose, and it affected, I let self-doubt in. Then if I don't know anything about being anything else other than as a mother to them. So I lost my sense of identity, my purpose. I burnt out. I started questioning myself. I think it's the self-doubt, plus also what I call cosmic 2x4s. Interestingly enough, 13 years ago, what started my cosmic 2x4 awakening, the bat on your head kind of thing,
You in the head, yeah.
divine intervention, but it was like my rental property 3 hours away from Minneapolis. It's in Duluth. It's 3 hours up north. Fire department called me early in the morning to say, "Hey, your property is on fire," and it was arson. And so that was my very first hit in the head, and there were so many more after that. And it was just a way to wake me up. Universe has a sense of humor. But what's more funny, this
More funny
more
than someone burning
funny,
your house down. I hope it's more
Easter
funny than that.
Sunday, just last weekend, Easter Sunday, another property of mine was on fire too. Can you
You're kidding.
believe it? Third, no, I'm not kidding. I told you, the universe has a sense of humor. But this time around, my mindset back then, which was heavy and dark and self-deprecating and oh my God, what's gonna happen? Because back then, everyone was losing their job left, right, and center. And so I didn't know that property owners were actually intentionally arsoning their homes so the insurance will pay off.
Right.
So I was the number one suspect.
Oh no.
And it was excruciating.
Far
It
out.
was like, oh my God. And people will say, the people in my life, don't worry about it. The insurance will cover it. Can I get some sympathy? But this time around, I'm like, been through it before, totally different mindset. I'm not coming from fear. I'm not coming from, oh, what's going to happen to me? And I was also very, very afraid that they will come to the city and burn my house down too. But now it's like, no worries. I know that the universe is taking
Yeah.
care of me. So long-winded answer to your question, but it was burnout
Okay.
because of the cosmic. It was a succession of things that, because I was so focused on being a good mom, being a good employee, doing the best that I can, and how, when we talk of soul power, the soul is trying to communicate, but when you're stuck in the mind so much that your patterns are so embedded, it's so hard unless a bat gets on your head. You
Yeah, or
upside
someone
down.
burned two of your houses down. Yeah, 100%. Well, that's a pretty crazy story, Tess. Thank you for being so upbeat this week. You definitely have worked on that mindset if you're rocking up to podcasts laughing about your second house burning down. So that's great news. Let's talk about soul power. Was this a concept that you created, or where did soul power come from? What does it mean to you?
Soul power is it's the journey that I went through. It's like, because I was so strong, I was a single mom, I was so masculine, I was the breadwinner, I was the protector, I was also the nurturer. It was all in one. At some point, the willpower and the personal power was not enough. I was on my knees begging God, will you just take my life away? And if you won't take my life away, take away the pain. And so when I asked that, then the soul started sipping in through my consciousness. And this is soul power. It's beyond what we imagine. It's beyond what we can logically understand. It's beyond our intellectual. It's beyond our emotions. So soul power really is the integration. I was an accountant, like you mentioned. I was an accountant. So I am all about reconciling and balancing. And so how that now translates into my business is balancing the four ledgers, which is the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Balance in their own ledgers, and then balance and integrate it as one, so we can become one pillar of light, which is the soul power. Does that make sense?
100% it makes sense. And it's really, really cool. I absolutely adore it when a coach has a system like that you've created, and it's so relatable the way you relate it to your old work in finance, balancing your four ledgers together. That's super Super, super cool. So sorry, there were spiritual, physical, mental, and what was the fourth one? Emotional?
Emotional.
Emotional. Awesome. Awesome. Um, I'm not a particularly like connected to the spirituality kind of guy. I've just never kind of made time for it. So I'm pretty much, very much just present in what's happening right now. So I'm really interested to learn more about this stuff. The this concept of achieving balance across all your different, all these different pillars of who you are, harmony
Mm.
across all of them. It's a word I know you use as well. Do you believe that we need to spend a long time and a lot of practice to get them in balance, or is it something that's quite simple and achievable for most people?
Well, it depending on the level of trauma a person has. Now, I didn't think I was a bit traumatized as a child, but because of the experiences that I shared with you, the why was my house on fire? And then later that year, why did this happen? Why did this happen? I turned into a why me? Why me, God? Why are you punishing me? And what I found out is it was a pattern that got buried when I was a kid. I grew up in an alcoholic family. I'm a child of an alcoholic, so there's not a whole lot emotional presence, support. They're there physically, but they're not really emotionally there. My mom was there too, but by then she was chaperoning my older sister elsewhere. So I was left alone to fend for myself. So there's trauma. There are things that we say to ourselves when we were young that amounts to, it sounds a lot like I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. How come nobody likes me? How come nobody plays with me? How come I'm always alone? So all those core false beliefs that creates the separation from our wholeness, from our spirit, from our soul. And I know you say you don't think you are spiritual, but everything is spiritual, one
Mm.
thing. And also, depending on where you are in life, I was in your place back then, and I was telling you, I was just focused on my job and focused on putting food on the table. That was my priority. That was my motivation until such a time where everything got pulled under me and I was on my knees begging
Mm.
God for, can you please take away this pain?
Yeah, 100%. No, I feel like that's probably true. Is this a Christian God that you're talking to? The tradition,
Yeah,
or is
I
it
was
a?
raised Catholic. Yeah, I
Okay.
was raised Catholic. But um yeah, I when I was going through the burnout, the dark night of the soul, I went to a Catholic priest. And said, and it was very comforting to have someone who can relate to you until one day he said, oh, well, I was asking for absolution. I made my confession, Father, I have sinned. These
Yeah.
are my sins. And he said, I cannot give you absolution because I was not married in the church for my second marriage. So for
Wow.
me to be blessed and given absolution, I would have to have to annul my first marriage so that my second marriage stood in the eyes of God. And
Mm.
I didn't believe that. I thought, well, that's baloney. Like, no,
Baloney.
there was something in me, but still, that is kind of, that's the kind of thing that makes you believe that you're not worthy,
I
So those
bet.
are the kinds of things, especially I grew up Catholic. I was raised up from kindergarten to college. I was in a Catholic school. So for a priest to tell me, no, you're excommunicated, um, like, okay. But
Wow.
my spirit was stronger, and I experienced God through me, inside of me, not the God that they're preaching, not the God up in the sky judging you, but the God, universe, this source energy that is in us. It's the energy that creates babies. It's the energy that breathes through us, and connects us
Yeah.
all.
Awesome. Awesome. And do you find yourself coming back to your faith in this God, in this universe, when you're having those difficult days like we all do in business?
Oh, definitely, definitely. It's a deeper understanding. It's there's no separation. I will use the word God, universe, nature, because
Sure.
not a lot of people resonate with the word God, but it's your highest nature. It's your pure essence. That's why you use soul power, because no one can argue. People have a sense of their soul, but sometimes they distance themselves from God, or they cannot see it, because uh, the word God has been used to manipulate people, control people, make people wrong, make people feel sinful and unworthy, which is not true.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's one of the things that kind of my guard goes up when religious people around me start talking about it, because it's very easy to, as you said, to not relate to it and to see the kind of stuff like what that priest did to you, kind of kick you out of the church for a technicality. Like, doesn't sound very Christian to me, right? Doesn't sound very
No.
supportive. So I love the idea of it. I'm super into anyone believing whatever they want to believe, but that's a very, very good explanation of it. And I suppose that for you and for other people, a faith in some sort of higher power really helps with the self-doubt. And I know that self-doubt is something that you talk about a lot as well, in giving people that soul power, overcoming self-doubt. On this podcast, in the audience, there's going to be a lot of coaches, people starting businesses at different levels with varying levels of experience. And we're all going to go through a fair amount of self-doubt in those journeys. I wonder, is there more of a long-term tip and a more instantaneous practice you can give us to overcome self-doubt?
Yes. Start with the belief, like flip it upside down. So we were taught and trained and indoctrinated to believe we are not enough. We've been told no since the time we were born. No, you can't do that. You might fall, you might fail. But flip that on its head and say, I am whole. I am created in the image and likeness of God, if that resonates with you. Or my spirit is infinite, if I tune into it. Your spirit, the one that's fierce, the one that fights, the one that never ever gives up, that is the spirit. Like really capture that and look back. Has your spirit ever failed you? When you really put your mind to it and your heart to it and your back to it, right? When all of you, this is soul powered, all of you, your physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, when all of you come into agreement as a one unified being, you are whole. So from this perspective, now I challenge you to invite yourself to look at your task where you are, excuse the French, unfuckable with. Because then, no matter what people say, you are in tune with your own power. I don't care if you relate to God or universe or the plants or the trees or the stars or the moon, but connect with that power, the light that's already in you and is you, and power that up. Because from there, then you can look at self-doubt. Oh, look, I'm doubting myself because there's a fear. Oh, okay, is that fear rational? What is that fear telling me? Oh, okay. Well, then I'm going to talk to Alex Morris to make sure that I have an effective and efficient lead generation that will create clients for me. And then this fear of not having enough clients, or this fear of not being able to support myself if I leave my full-time job. Then you have that strategic process and alignment with the desire, the thing that you desire the most. So when people let fear run them, that's when self-doubt becomes an enemy, and it festers and festers, and then the mind just goes on a loop and a loop and a loop and a loop. And then next thing you know, you're into depression, you're into overwhelm, you're into anxiety, and you can't get up in the morning. And then you forget, oh my God, I don't want to do this anymore. Nothing I ever do has results anyway. Why should I do this? I should just get another job. Right. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. Flip it over the head and say, I am powered, other than fear, other than excuses, other than the negative voices that I heard in my childhood. I am powered by the spirit in me that never fails me.
Yeah, that's super, super inspirational. And it sounds super true as well. I loved how you took that and you said that's kind of the first step. And then that allows you to zoom out and make decisions logically rather than emotionally. Because this is one of the things that gets people, right? In life and in business, is making decisions on an emotional basis rather than like rationalizing it. And that rational fears versus irrational fears, that's a very, very interesting one, because what you just said there, a fear of not having enough clients, that's going to then zoom into a fear of not having enough sales, then not enough money, and then not enough food on the table, and then eventually you and your family die. It always kind of comes down to that, and we catastrophize all these thoughts when they're actually pretty logical. And what you've just said there, saying to yourself that you've actually got this infinite amount of power behind you, that I feel would really let you just to take a step back before you start making more and more decisions that actually take you further into that hole, like you said. Super cool. Super cool.
Yeah. So that is the gift that, when basically I lost my first husband, stranded in the US. I was deportable, and I have 2 kids, newborn and a 2-year-old. How am I going to support for them? I did not have the luxury of asking myself, do I have what it takes to take care of these kids? No, I'm going to do whatever it takes. So I want you to take that stand. I'm going to do whatever it takes. This is my baby. Their life depends on me. So treat your business like that, and treat self-doubt and fear as something that is a friend, an ally that has a message for you, rather than, it chasing you and you're like, I can't do this anymore. Like, face your demons, and it will shrink because you are in your soul power.
I'm all about facing demons. I'm all about facing challenges. Do you believe that all those challenges were given to you so you could come and teach people this movement?
Exactly. Yes.
Are you happy that they happened?
Oh my God, yes. It took me a long time, because I even back in 2015, I was like, I literally heard myself, God, why? What do I have to do to earn your favor? So this is religion indoctrinating me that I'm not worthy, right? Like, what do I have to do? I'm like, oh my God, you still don't believe you're worthy. You still don't believe that you're a daughter of God. You say all these things about divine God, and with God all things are possible, but deep down, you're still questioning your worth and asking for favor. And that is the biggest BS of all. It is really the biggest BS of all.
Yeah. I guess it gives power to someone else, right? It takes the power out of your hands and makes you the victim.
Exactly. It perpetuates the victimhood, the scarcity, the lack mentality, the fear of never enough, fear of not ever succeeding, or fear of success. Like, who am I going to be if I succeed? Then what's going to happen to my this and that? What's people going to think of me? That's fear, just constant, on and on and on and on and on. You put a stop to it, and from now on, fear is my friend.
Love that. Fear is your friend. I like to say fear is my bitch. And
There you go.
Yeah. No, try and do something difficult every day, whether that's physical or mental. And that's a mentality I'm very glad to have developed, over the years of putting myself in tough situations. Tess, whether or not you chose for all these things to happen to you or they happened to you by some divine intervention, whatever, it's turned you into a fantastic person. I'm really excited about what you're doing. We didn't get to talk heaps about your actual day-to-day business because your story is so good. But we're going to put some links, in your in all the podcasts and everything so people can come download your you have a book. You have a book that I had the title of. Tell us about your book quickly.
It's about the reconciling the four pillars, the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual.
Yes.
Because if we are all about strategies and we have unresolved emotion, then that's how fear gets to you, when you have unresolved emotion and shame and self-judgment and all that. So and then if you're all analyzing and you don't have the connection from your heart, you're also repelling your clients, your prospects. You're creating a block, a wall between the people. So when you're open, when you're open to your soul power, to all possibilities, then you are that light. You become like your clients, your prospects are like a moth to the flame, and they're just attracted to you because you're being your authentic true self, without shame, without judgment, without anything, without baggage, that really repels people from you.
That is a topic I could talk about for 3 hours with you, Tess. Authenticity to get more clients in because you're just being yourself. It's all we can do. So really glad you brought that up. But I know you got to shoot off. So the book is Reconciling the Four Pillars to Wholeness. It's a free ebook. We're going to put the links here to download that one, Tess. What a fascinating story. I wish we could speak for longer, but you're a busy lady. You've got a lot of stuff to do. You've got a world to change. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. Salamat.
Salamat. Thank you, Alex.
I love the Filipino language. I'm trying to learn some stuff. So I got one word down. Thank you, Tess. Lovely having you here today. Anyone listening or watching live or, playing back later, thank you so much for being here. I'll be back in a couple more days with another episode of Coaches to the Moon podcast. Until then, thank you so much for watching. Much love.